Today we're going to take a look at part 2 of our Winnie the Pooh reading practice. Last time we started reading chapter 1 of the book Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. And today we're going to continue reading chapter 1. And this is a little story about Winnie the Pooh, who is a teddy bear, and he goes on an adventure trying to get honey from some bees. And you can see in this picture, we're going to get a hint of what might happen. And in this story, it's about Winnie the Pooh the bear, but it's also about a young boy named Christopher Robin. And the way this story works is that the story is told by the father. The father is telling a story to the boy, Christopher Robin. So in the story, you might hear the word you. You did this, you did that. The you is Christopher Robin, the young boy, the boy who has Winnie the Pooh. Let's get started by reading what we learned last time. We can look at the story of Winnie the Pooh and read through it one more time. And when we get to new parts of the story, we can talk about what each part means, learn some words, learn some grammar, etc. Okay? So let's get started with Winnie the Pooh. Here's the map of where Winnie the Pooh lives. And so we're working on chapter 1. If there are any issues with what we see, or if it's hard to see, please let me know, okay? And in this book, there are many chapters, and each chapter is one little story. So we're going to focus on chapter 1. Chapter 1 is called In Which We Are Introduced to Winnie the Pooh and Some Bees, and the stories begin. So it's the first story. So I'll read what we learned last time. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now. Bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. But sometimes he feels that there really is another way. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. So Winnie the Pooh is Edward Bear or Teddy Bear. Bump, bump, bump down the stairs with Christopher Robin. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you are going to say, but I thought he was a boy. Winnie is usually a girl's name. I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie? I don't. But you said, he's Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what the means? Usually it's THE. Here they write with an R, so you make sure you say it. The Winnie the Pooh. Now here. Ah, yes, now I do, I said quickly. And I hope you do too, because it is all the explanation you are going to get. Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs, and sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening... What about a story? Said Christopher Robin. What about a story? I said. Could you very sweetly tell Winnie the Pooh one? I suppose I could, I said. What sort of stories does he like? About himself, because he's that sort of bear. Oh, I see. So could you very sweetly? I'll try, I said. so I tried. So the father is going to tell a story to Christopher Robin and to his teddy bear, Winnie the Pooh. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it. Winnie the Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. One day, when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. And in the middle of this place was a large oak tree. And from the top of the tree, there came a loud buzzing noise. Bzzz. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, "That buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without its meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee." Then he thought another long time and said, "And the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey." And then he got up and said, "And the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it." So he began to climb the tree. Of course, Winnie the Pooh loves honey, so he wants that honey. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed. And as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. "Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does." Then he climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time, he had thought of another song. "It's a very funny thought that, if bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs." Winnie the Pooh doesn't like climbing so much. He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch... Crack! "Oh, help!" said Pooh, as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. He's falling. "If only I hadn't," he said as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. "You see, what I meant to do," he explained, as he turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. "What I meant to do..." "Of course it was rather," he admitted, as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. Shoo, 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 shoo. "It all comes, I suppose," he decided, as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun round 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. "It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help!" He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. So Winnie the Pooh, so far, he decided to climb the tree to try to get the honey from the bees. But he slipped, he fell, and boom, 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 boom. And now he's covered in prickles from this bush. So you can see this picture. Can you see? You can see this picture of Winnie the Pooh over here with lots of prickles stuck in his butt. Ouch. But it's okay. He'll be fine. And so he's going to get some help so he can find this honey. And he's going to ask Christopher Robin for help. Now, this is where we get to the new parts of the story, and we'll talk a little bit slower. We'll talk about some of the words and some of the grammar that happens in here. So, Winnie the Pooh says he's going to go talk to Christopher Robin. 1 second. Okay. Was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an awed voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. So this part is outside of the story. So the father is telling the story about Winnie the Pooh. This part is Christopher Robin listening to the story and talking to his father about the story. The father says that Winnie the Pooh wants to talk to Christopher Robin, and then the Christopher Robin who's listening to the story says, "Was that me?" Now, how do you know it's different from the story? Well, you can see the letters are a little bit different. Now, all of the letters are a little bit sideways. They're diagonal. Now, there's a special word for this kind of letter. We call these italics. You can say these letters are italic. That's an adjective. Now, if you're in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you can make letters italics by pushing an I that is leaning to the side. At the top of the page, there's a big B, and then there's an I that's like this. So the I is for italic. Now, in case you're curious, so I for italic. If you see that big B, that's for bold. If you're on Google Docs and you see that big B, B is for bold. You get those thick letters. Come on. Everything, don't stick. Well, whatever. I think you can see that. Okay. Okay. I think you know what I mean. So, was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an awed voice. Now here is a tricky word. Awe. A-W-E. It sounds like awe. Just one sound. Kind of like the sound you would make if you're a little bit sad. Aw. This is actually a good thing, though. You might know the words awesome. Well, you probably know the word awesome. Awesome, the beginning has the word awe in it. The word awe means that you look at something and you go, oh. You're amazed by something. So awed is, I'll put this in parentheses because it's not what it means. Awed is like amazed. If you see something and you think it's wonderful, you could say you are awed by it. So something that's awesome makes someone feel awed, meaning that they look at it and go, oh, that's amazing. Okay? So, was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an awed voice. So his voice sounds like he's, wow, has that feeling. Okay? Hardly daring to believe it. The word hardly is the same as barely. We learned this in our course. Barely means almost not. So he almost can't believe it. Okay? hardly daring to believe it. To dare, how do you describe dare? Dare, here the word daring is kind of like be willing. Or being able to. It's similar. It's a little bit different, but it's similar to this feeling. Like he doesn't want to believe. So he's hardly daring to believe. Like, you're saying this story is about me? That's too amazing. So he's like, thinks it's hard to believe. He hardly daring to believe it. What? Okay. And the father says, that was you. So Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger. So when someone feels odd, they think something's amazing, their eyes might get larger and larger. Wow. And his face got pinker and pinker. Maybe he's more excited and feeling happy. So his face got pink. So Winnie-the-Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin. Now here, went round. This is kind of an old way of writing or talking. It's kind of like went around, meaning he didn't really go around anything, maybe around the town from one place to another. To went round or go round is like travel to. So he traveled to meet Christopher Robin. So he went round to his friend Christopher Robin. Oh, that's too small. Okay, so he went to visit Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. I think we're okay with that. So keep going. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, okay? Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Good morning, Winnie-the-Pooh, said you. Remember that you means Christopher Robin, because the father's talking to him. I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you. A balloon? So, Winnie-the-Pooh says, I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you. This way of using such a thing is kind of an old way of speaking, but it's like the words something like. Well, that's too small. I'm gonna go crazy. The letters keep changing size on me. Whoa, that's too big. Come on. Okay. Phew. So such a thing as is kind of like the phrase something like. I'm trying to think of another example. Let's say you have people come to your party. You could say, oh, it was something like a party. Maybe it's not exactly a party, but it's something like a party. Your friends came together, you chatted, you drank some beer, you ate some snacks. So it's something like a party. Now, the old way of saying it would be using such a thing as. Oh, we had such a thing as a party. We had something like a party. Okay? And then, so Winnie the Pooh said, I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you. Now, here, about you is like around you, or near you, or close to you. I'll fit it. So Winnie the Pooh is wondering, does Christopher Robin have a balloon? So again, this is a little bit of an old way of saying it, or maybe it might be more common in England. So I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you. Which in modern English or American English, it's like, I wonder, if you've got something like a balloon around. Like, do you have one in your house? Now, why would Winnie the Pooh want a balloon? Interesting. So Christopher Robin says, a balloon? Yes, I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself, thinking of balloons and wondering. What do you want a balloon for? You said. So Winnie the Pooh was walking and thinking about balloons, and he's wondering. Now, what does it mean to wonder? Wonder is almost the same as think. But it's a little bit different than just thinking. It's more than thinking. It's oh my gosh, I can't type. I should move my keyboard closer. That's why. It's too far to the side. I'm going crazy. So wondering is like thinking, but you're thinking about what could be. You have a question in your head and you're thinking about the answer to that question. Let's write it that way. You're thinking about the answer to a question. So, I don't know. Do you think Christopher Robin has a balloon? I wonder. Okay? So wondering is a kind of thinking. Christopher Robin says, what do you want the balloon for? Winnie the Pooh looked round to see that nobody was listening, put his paw to his mouth and said in a deep whisper, honey. So, again, round isn't like saying around. Come on. I want to type here. So Winnie the Pooh looked round means Winnie the Pooh looked around. I would say around. Using looked round is a little bit old-fashioned, but remember this book is 100 years old. That's why. So Winnie the Pooh looked round to see that nobody was listening. He doesn't want anyone to hear him. Put his paw to his mouth and said in a deep whisper, honey. So a whisper is when you speak quietly. A deep whisper maybe is very quiet. Okay? Honey. And Christopher Robin says, but you don't get honey with balloons. I do, said Pooh. So Winnie the Pooh wants the balloon to get honey. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. Okay, so it just happened. It just happened means kind of like it was a coincidence. It just happened that means it was a coincidence. Coincidence. Coincidence, like in Chinese, would be like 巧遇. A coincidence, something that matches, like there's some surprise that fits something. So it just happened that, I'll underline the word that because that's important. So Winnie the Pooh is asking for balloons, and wow, surprise, it just happened that you had balloons from a party. So it was a surprise match for what Winnie the Pooh is looking for. Okay? So let's see. It just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet. So we're going to talk about grammar for a second. You had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet. And you had balloons at the party. You had had a big green balloon. And one of Rabbit's relations had had a big blue one. Oh my God. This is actually correct grammar, but it looks crazy. Okay. And had left it behind, being too young to go to a party at all. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. Okay. Now, what's going on here? Let's use a different color. So let's start by drawing a line. It's Chinese New Year, so we're going to use red. Over here, this is now, okay? This red line is right now. Now, oh, can you see the word now? No, you can't. Let's, one second. Fighting with my computer. Okay, take the word now, move it over. Now, red line. Draw a line here. This is our timeline. We've done this before in our course, I think. So this line is now. If the father is telling the story to Christopher Robin now, right? So when you tell a story, it already happened before, right? That's the past. So you went to a party. That would be past tense. Pooh visited Christopher Robin. So Christopher Robin told Pooh about the balloons. Okay? So now is when the father is telling the story. Past tense, this blue. What color is that? Purple. The purple X is when Christopher Robin told Winnie the Pooh about the party. And before that was the actual party. I'll use orange. Come on, give me a nice line. There we go. That's before that. Now, when we're talking about past tense, we use past tense like told a story. If it's before that, we can use something called past perfect tense. And past perfect tense is had and a PP verb. Now, what is a PP verb? That's called a past participle. And sometimes it has a D on it. Sometimes it has an N on it. So let's say we use this to show that one thing happened before the other. So it happened before something else in the past. So two things in the past, one thing before the other. Oh, this is confusing, right? So what it means, now is the father telling the story. This X is when Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin met, which is before. Before they met, Christopher Robin went to a party. So at the party, he had had a big green balloon. So Christopher Robin's talking to Winnie the Pooh. Before that, he had been to a party. So before meeting Pooh, he went to a party. He had been to a party. He didn't have a balloon when he's talking to Winnie the Pooh. He had had a balloon. So at the party before, he had had a balloon. And one of Rabbit's relations meaning relatives, someone in their family, had a big blue one. Oh my God, this is confusing, huh? Anyways, when you see had something, that means it's in the past, but before something else in the past. Does that make sense? Let's say I tell you a story. Oh, yesterday I went to a movie. I went to see a movie. How about that? That's in the past tense. I'm telling you a story, so I use went. So I can use past tense to tell you what happened yesterday. If I want to tell you what happened yesterday before the movie, then I can use had plus a PP. I went to see a movie. Before that, I had eaten lunch. Okay? So you can use had eaten to show it came before went to see a movie. Okay, anyways, I don't want to talk about this for a million years. You can review the past perfect tense. Past perfect, which is had plus a PP verb. That's very small. Give me a second. So if you want to practice, look up that. The past perfect tense. It's tricky, but just remember it's a way to show what happened before something else. Okay? Anyways, so if you see had, it's actually correct grammar. You had a big green balloon. So you had it at the party before you met Pooh. And one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue one. So before meeting Pooh, Rabbit's family had a big blue balloon and had left it behind. So they didn't take it home. They left it behind. Being really too young to go to a party at all. This is talking about Rabbit's relation, one of Rabbit's relations. So maybe a child in Rabbit's family was too young to go to the party. But so they had a balloon, then forgot it. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. So this means Christopher Robin had gone to a party before meeting Pooh, and he had brought 2 balloons home after the party. Oh my God. This is complicated and confusing, but again, don't worry. This is a tool to help you show time in a sentence. You don't have to use this. You could just use past tense. It would be okay. Okay, let's keep going. So Christopher Robin has a blue balloon and a green balloon. Which one would you like? You asked Pooh. He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. It's like this, he said. When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you were only part of the tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think you were only part of the sky and not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely? So, it's like this. So, and this is a way to say, like, this is the situation. Or this is how things will happen. This is what's going on. It's like this. This is a way to start a little story or explain something to someone or explain what's going on. Okay, it's like this. It's kind of a way to start, make someone listen and say, okay, I'm going to explain what's going on. It's like this. When you go after honey with a balloon, here go after is kind of like chase or try to get. Oh, come on. Try to get. When you try to get honey with a balloon, when you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. So he wants to go to the honey and have it so the bees don't notice. Now, if you have a green balloon, the word now doesn't mean the time. It doesn't mean right now. It means, it's just a connecting word. I might say it sometimes. Now, we're going to talk about blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like, think about this, sort of. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you were only part of the tree. That makes sense. Green balloon, you look like you're part of a tree. And not notice you. To notice is kind of like to see. Oh, I'm going too far over. Kind of like to see. So they might not see you. They might not notice you. They might not know you're there. Because you have a green balloon, you look like a tree. Then he continues. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think you were only part of the sky. So you have a blue balloon, you look like the sky. Not bad. And not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely? Now, which is most likely? Likely means will probably happen. Likely means will probably happen. So, let's see. You look at the sky and there are lots of clouds. Dark clouds. You might say, it will likely rain. Here the word likely is kind of like probably. It will probably rain. It will likely rain. Now, which is most likely? Oh, and I'll just shorten that to probable. Oh, not probably, probable. Probable meaning it has a good chance of happening. So which is most likely? Which is most probable? What Winnie the Pooh is asking is, okay, if they see green, they think it's a tree. Or they see blue, they think it's the sky. Which will probably happen? Or which will have a better chance of happening? So which is most likely? Okay. So he's trying to decide, do we want green or blue? Christopher Robin says, wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon? You asked. So if Winnie the Pooh's hanging down, they would see him, right? They might or they might not, said Winnie the Pooh. You can never tell with bees. So they might notice him or they might not notice him, said Winnie the Pooh. You can never tell with bees. So you can never tell is the same as you can never know, right? Remember that tell can mean that you're talking to someone, but you can use tell to mean know or recognize something. Like, if you're a student in class and you look at the teacher and you go, do you think the teacher's tired today? And your friend says, I can't tell. Meaning, I'm looking, I can't see, I can't notice, I can't figure it out. Okay? So Winnie the Pooh says, you never can tell with bees. Meaning, he doesn't know if they'll notice him hanging below the balloon. Continue. He thought for a moment and said, I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them. So Winnie the Pooh is going to hang under this balloon and he wants to look like a small black cloud. Okay, interesting. that will deceive them. Here, deceive is like to trick them. He wants to trick the bee. Oops. He wants to trick the bees. He wants to deceive the bees. Remember, the C sounds like an S. Deceive. That will deceive them. Okay. Then you had better have the blue balloon, you said, and so it was decided. You had better have the blue balloon. Here, the word had better is like should. You should have the blue balloon. Why? Well, if Winnie the Pooh wants to look like a cloud, above him it should be the sky, right? If it's blue, they'll make it look like the sky. If it's green, it'll be a tree. If he's a cloud, he's in the sky. Makes sense, of course. So here's Winnie the Pooh. What is he doing? Well, he's jumping in some mud so he can turn into a black cloud. So cute, right? Okay. Oh, there he is, covered in mud. Okay. Let's see. We can do a little bit more. We're not going to finish today. I think we can do this in 3 parts. Maybe 4, I'm not sure. But we'll do a little bit more and see how we do. Okay. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon, and you took your gun with you. Oh my God. Just in case, as you always did. And Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of, and rolled until he was black all over. Let's stop there for a second. So, well, you both went out with the blue balloon. They take the balloon and go outside. And you took your gun with you. Oh my God. So, Christopher Robin has a gun. I think it's a toy gun, but kind of scary, right? I guess 100 years ago, it was okay for children to have guns or toy guns that could shoot. It's just scary. Christopher Robin playing with Winnie the Pooh going, brah, brah, brah. Oh my God. So you took your gun with you. Jeez, times have changed. So you took your gun with you just in case, as you always did. Just in case means maybe there will be something that happens where you need your gun. So just in case, you're doing something to be careful, to be ready for anything. So you took your gun with you just in case, as you always did. Don't do that, Christopher Robin. And Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of. Well, mud is wet dirt. And if a place is muddy, it has lots of mud. Okay? So he went to this muddy place and rolled until he was black all over. Okay, keep going. And then, when the balloon was blown up as big, and you and Pooh were both holding onto the string, you let go suddenly. And Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. So, when the balloon was blown up as big. Now, this is not a common thing. That's why I stopped. It's like, is that correct? So, just blown up means you blow into it. It's blown up as big, which means it's huge. I might say, like, if I wrote this, I would say as big as, and then choose something really big. As big as an elephant. Something like that. And anyways, and you and Pooh were both holding on to the string. The string is the little line that comes off of a balloon. They're both holding the string. You let go suddenly. So Christopher Robin goes shoo, really quickly, suddenly. And Pooh Bear, just another way to say his name, Winnie the Pooh, Pooh Bear, he floated gracefully up into the sky. To float means to go up, stay up. You could float in the air. It sounds like it's slow. It's floating up. You could also float on water. You stay on top of the water. Okay? So Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky. We talked about gracefully last time. Gracefully is kind of like elegantly, in a beautiful way. Okay? And stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. So level with means at the same level, at the same height. So we have the tree, my beautiful tree, and we have the balloon with Pooh Bear hanging from the balloon. That's Pooh Bear, whatever. He's a black cloud, right? And so they're level. Level means they're at the same height, the same level, up and down, okay? So if two things are level with each other, they're next to each other, the same height. So he's floating level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. 20 feet is about 7 meters. An easy thing to do is 3 feet is close to 1 meter. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. So 20 feet is close to 7 meters, let's say. Okay? And then, so Winnie the Pooh's floating up there. I think we could read this last part. So Christopher Robin says, "Hooray!" you shouted. "Isn't that fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh down to you. "What do I look like?" So isn't that fine? What he means is, oh, isn't that nice? Like, we did a good job, right? Isn't that fine? That's not really what we would say now. We'd say like, hey, look at that. Or good job. Or wow, we did it. We did it. Or look at that. Look at that is like, wow. I'll move that over. So, "Isn't that fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh down to you. "What do I look like?" And Christopher Robin says, "You look like a bear holding on to a balloon," you said. "Not," said Pooh anxiously. "Not like a small black cloud in a blue sky?" Not very much," said Christopher Robin. So he just looks like a bear hanging from a balloon. Too bad. And Pooh is a little bit worried. So not, said Pooh anxiously. To be anxious is to be worried. Oh, I can't type. So worried, worriedly. So he asks in a nervous way. That would be a better word than worriedly. Let's say nervously. Worriedly is worried is normal. Worriedly is weird. So let's say nervously. Not, said Pooh anxiously. Not like a small black cloud in the blue sky. Not very much. So you tried, but you just look like a bear on a balloon. And Pooh continues. Well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And, as I say, you can never tell with bees. So you don't know what bees are thinking. There was no wind to blow him nearer to the tree, so there he stayed. So there wasn't any wind to blow him closer to the tree, nearer to the tree. So there he stayed. He stays floating in one place. He could see the honey. He could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. To reach something means to get to it. He couldn't quite get to the honey. He's too far away because the balloon is not close to the tree. After a little while, he called down to you. Christopher Robin. Oh, wait, sorry. Christopher Robin, he said in a loud whisper. Now that sounds kind of funny. What's a loud whisper? Well, a whisper is someone speaking quietly, like, hi, can you hear me? But a loud whisper, you still do that voice, hi, but you make it louder. Hey, Christopher Robin. That's a loud whisper. So you're trying to be quiet, but you're also trying to be a little bit loud. It's kind of a funny thing. Christopher Robin. Hello. This is a different way to write hello. Kind of an old way to write hello. Hello. And then Winnie the Pooh says, I think the bees suspect something. To suspect something means you think something's wrong. Or feel like something is wrong or strange. So Winnie the Pooh is trying to be sneaky, and the bees start to feel funny. Something's going on here. They suspect something. I think the bees suspect something. What sort of thing? I don't know, but something tells me that they're suspicious. Suspicious and suspect are connected. If you're suspicious, you think something is wrong. You think something's going on. Something's not right here. Okay? Let's see. Maybe we can finish this part and then we can stop. How about that? I think that would be perfect. I'll put a line here. Okay. Christopher Robin says, perhaps they think that you're after their honey. Remember that perhaps means maybe. Maybe they think that you're after their honey. It may be that. You can never tell with bees. There was another little silence, and then he called down to you again. Silence means complete quiet. There's no sound. They're not talking. So there was another little silence. And then he called down to you again. Christopher Robin. Yes? Have you an umbrella in your house? I think so. Here, have you an umbrella in your house? This is an old way of asking questions. Maybe in England, people might talk like this. In American English, we would say, do you have? At the beginning of the question. Do you have an umbrella in your house? Have you an umbrella in your house? We don't usually talk like that anymore. Christopher Robin says, I think so. And Winnie the Pooh says, I wish you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it and look up at me every now and then and say, tut tut, it looks like rain. I think if you did that, it would help the deception which we are practicing on these bees. So, Winnie the Pooh says, Christopher Robin, go get your umbrella. I wish you would bring it out here. Walk up and down with it. Up and down doesn't actually mean up and down. It means back and forth. So go up the street and down the street. So going that way and this way. So walk back and forth would be another way. Back and forth. Walk back and forth, walk left and right. So just walk around with your umbrella. And look up at me every now and then and say, tut tut. It looks like rain. This is a very old thing that people say. That means like, oh my gosh, tut tut. It looks like rain. So it looks like rain means it looks like it might rain. So Winnie the Pooh wants Christopher Robin to hold an umbrella, look at Winnie, and say, it might rain. Because Winnie the Pooh wants to look like a black cloud, right? And he says, I think if you did that, it would help the deception which we are practicing on these bees. Remember, deceive was trick, the verb. Deception is trick, a noun. They're trying to trick the bees. They're trying to use deception. Deception is the idea of doing tricks or lying to someone. It would help the deception which we are practicing on these bees. So you could use the word practicing about deception. You're playing a trick, you're practicing deception. Just these are the words that go together. And then last part. Well, you laughed to yourself, silly old bear, but you didn't say it aloud because you were so fond of him and you went home for your umbrella. So you laughed to yourself, silly old bear. So laugh to yourself, ho ho ho. Silly old bear. Silly is like funny, but a little bit crazy, a little bit dumb. This is usually a nice thing. Doesn't mean you're stupid. It means, oh, you're being funny, but a little bit not smart. But it's like saying it in a nice way. But you didn't say it aloud. Aloud is the same as out loud. You didn't say it out loud. So Christopher Robin didn't say with his voice, silly old bear. He only thought it or felt it. So you didn't say it aloud because you were so fond of him. Fond of someone means you like them. Because you were fond of means you liked him. To be fond of something just means you like it. But we put it with the word be. So to be fond of someone or something. Oh, I am fond of going to the beach. I am fond of pizza. Something like that. Okay? To be fond of something. So you were fond of him. Christopher Robin likes Winnie the Pooh, so he doesn't say that he's silly. And you went home for your umbrella. So Christopher Robin goes home to get the umbrella to help Winnie the Pooh try to trick the bees. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop for today. I hope you're having a good time. This is a little bit tricky, but I hope you're having fun in learning something new. And I think we'll be able to finish it next time in part 3. Again, if you have questions about any of the words or phrases or grammar we talked about, ask me a question. Don't be shy. So before we go, let's go back to where we started today and try reading it one more time, the whole thing, and try to follow along what's happening. So, Winnie the Pooh fell out of the tree. Boom, 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 boom. And then he says, the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. So we'll start again from this yellow line and read through the story. Was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an awed voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Good morning, Winnie-the-Pooh, said you. I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you. A balloon? Yes, I just said to myself coming along. I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself, thinking of balloons and wondering. What do you want a balloon for? You said. Winnie the Pooh looked round to see that nobody was listening, put a paw to his mouth, and said in a deep whisper, "Honey." "But you don't get honey with balloons." "I do," said Pooh. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. "Which one would you like?" you asked Pooh. He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. "It's like this," he said. "When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you were only part of the tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think you were only part of the sky and not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely?" "Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon?" you asked. "They might or they might not," said Winnie the Pooh. "You can never tell with bees." He thought for a moment and said, "I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them." "Then you had better have the blue balloon," you said, and so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon, and you took your gun with you, just in case, as you always did. And Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of, and rolled until he was black all over. And then, when the balloon was blown up as big, you and Pooh were both holding onto the string. You let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. "Hooray!" you shouted. "Isn't this fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh down to you. "What do I look like?" "You look like a bear holding onto a balloon," you said. "Not," said Pooh anxiously, "not like a small black cloud in a blue sky?" "Not very much." "Ah, well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And, as I say, you can never tell with bees." There was no wind to blow him nearer to the tree, so there he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while, he called down to you. "Christopher Robin," he said in a loud whisper. "Hello?" "I think the bees suspect something." "What sort of thing?" "I don't know, but something tells me that they're suspicious." "Perhaps they think you're after their honey." "It may be that. You can never tell with bees." There was another little silence, and then he called down to you again. "Christopher Robin." "Yes?" "Have you an umbrella in your house?" "I think so." "I wish you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it, and look up at me every now and then and say, 'Tut tut, it looks like rain.' I think if you did that, it would help the deception which we are practicing on these bees." Well, you laughed to yourself, "Silly old bear," but you didn't say it aloud because you were so fond of him, and you went home for your umbrella. That's the end of part 2. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a good time. And next time, we can get together and check out part 3 of this story about Winnie the Pooh. Will he be able to take his balloon to the tree to get the honey? Or will there be another problem? Will he get stuck? Or will something happen with the bees? Or Christopher Robin with his gun? Oh, that's a little bit scary, right? But yeah, I hope you had a good time. I did. And this is a cute, fun story, and I hope you had a good time. So let's stop here for today, and I'll see you next time for part 3. So have a good day, and go get some honey, and enjoy yourself. See you next time. Bye-bye.